Let's be honest. The moment a woman shares this with you, something inside her has already crossed a line she can never uncross. It's quiet. It's subtle. No grand confession. No dramatic speech. But if you miss it, you'll watch love stand in front of you and walk away unnoticed. Listen carefully. A woman doesn't give her real world to a man she doesn't trust. She can give attention. She can give time. She can even give affection without being fully invested. But when she shares the parts of her life that are unfiltered, unpolished, and unguarded, she is not testing you. She is revealing her emotional home address. You might think love is obvious, that it announces itself loudly, that if she feels deeply, she will say it directly. But women don't move toward love with noise. They move with exposure, with risk, with a slow lowering of emotional armor that most men never even notice is happening. When she shares what genuinely worries her at night, not the safe worries, not the casual complaints, but the fears she rarely speaks out loud, that is not casual conversation. That is emotional trust in its purest form. She is allowing you to see her without performance and understand this clearly. A woman protects her inner world more fiercely than her outer image. Men often chase signs of attraction, text speed, compliments, physical closeness, but those are surface signals. They are sparks, not fire. Real love shows up when she allows you into her private emotional landscape, her memories, her insecurities, her past disappointments that still echo quietly inside her. When she begins sharing moments that shaped her, childhood wounds, old heartbreaks, times she felt small or unseen, she is not simply telling stories. She is handing you pieces of her identity. She is asking without saying it directly, "Can you hold this without judging me?" And here is what most men misunderstand. This sharing is not automatic. It is earned through presence, patience, and emotional steadiness. A woman does not open deeply to a man who is uncertain, distracted, or inconsistent. She opens to the one who feels safe to fall toward. Safety is not softness. Safety is strength without pressure, attention without demand, interest without control. When she sends you something that reminded her of you, a song, a memory, a thought she could have kept to herself, she is linking you to her emotional experiences. She is weaving you into how she processes life. And that is not casual. That is attachment forming in real time. If she invites you into her ordinary moments, not just exciting plans, but quiet routines, she is showing you where you exist in her real world, not just her romantic imagination. Pay attention to what she shares when there is nothing to gain, no validation needed, no approval required, just expression. Because when a woman shares her inner reality freely, consistently, and without emotional distance, she is no longer deciding if she loves you. She is already there. There is a moment when her communication changes, and if you don't understand what it means, you will misread devotion as simplicity. She stops performing perfection. She stops curating every word. She begins to show you her unfiltered reactions in real time. That shift is not comfort alone. It is emotional investment becoming irreversible. A woman who is not deeply attached manages impressions. She edits herself, she calculates responses, she protects how she appears. But when love takes root, calculation fades. She lets you see her moods without disguise. Her laughter becomes louder, her silence becomes honest, her opinions become unsoftened by the fear of losing you. This is where many men make a mistake. They think emotional openness is ordinary. They think vulnerability is just personality. But vulnerability is expensive. It costs pride, it risks rejection, it exposes need. And a woman only pays that price when the connection matters more than self-protection. When she tells you about her day in detail, not because the events were special, but because she wants you inside her experience, she is building emotional continuity. She is not reporting information. She is including you in her life narrative. You become someone she mentally turns toward even when you are not present. Pay attention when she shares something embarrassing about herself without prompting a mistake she made, a fear she hides from others, a thought she worries might make her seem weak. That is not casual disclosure. That is trust seeking a home. And notice how she reacts to your presence when she is overwhelmed. If she reaches for you emotionally during stress, confusion, or uncertainty, she is not just comfortable with you. She sees you as psychological stability. You are no longer a person she interacts with you or a place she returns to. Love is not proven by excitement. It is proven by emotional reliance. There is another sign that men often overlook because it feels ordinary. She remembers small details about you that you never emphasized: preferences, offhand comments, subtle shifts in mood. She tracks them not out of effort, but because attention naturally follows emotional priority. The mind protects what the heart values when she begins sharing future thoughts that include you without dramatic announcement. That is not fantasy. That is subconscious planning. She is aligning her internal timeline with your presence in it, not loudly, not formally, quietly, naturally, as if your place beside her is already understood. You may think love is declared with certainty, but the truth is more subtle. Love appears first in behavior long before it appears in words. When she chooses honesty over charm, presence over mystery, closeness over control, she is no longer guarding her heart from you. She is guarding you inside her heart. And if you are paying attention, you will notice something profound. She does not share these things to impress you. She shares them because emotionally she has already chosen you as someone who matters to her inner world. That choice is never accidental. There is a deeper layer most men never recognize because it does not look romantic on the surface. It looks ordinary, it feels calm, but psychologically, it is one of the strongest indicators of love a woman can show. She begins sharing her fears about losing things that matter to her. Not in dramatic ways, not in confessions meant to pull sympathy, but in quiet moments when she lets you see what she is afraid could disappear: stability, connection, meaning, direction, or even you. Fear is never shown where trust is absent. A woman hides fear from men she is unsure about because fear creates vulnerability, and vulnerability creates exposure. But when she lets you witness what unsettles her internally, she is allowing you to see the part of her that seeks reassurance without demanding it. And this is where emotional attachment becomes unmistakable. She begins to care how her actions affect you, not because she feels controlled, not because she fears judgment, but because your emotional state now matters to her internal balance. When she apologizes sincerely, when she explains herself without being asked, when she wants clarity instead of distance, that is emotional accountability born from care. Understand this clearly. A woman who does not love you can walk away from misunderstanding without discomfort. A woman who does love you feels tension when disconnection appears. She wants alignment. She wants peace between you, even when it requires emotional effort. There is also a shift in how she shares silence with you. Silence stops being empty. It becomes safe. She does not rush to fill every pause. She does not perform conversation to maintain interest. She relaxes into presence. That calmness is not boredom. It is psychological comfort. Her nervous system recognizes you as familiar ground. When she begins sharing dreams that are uncertain or fragile ideas she has not fully formed, hopes she fears might fail, she is not seeking approval. She is letting you witness possibility before it becomes reality. That level of exposure is reserved for someone whose opinion carries emotional weight. Another sign appears in how she shares memories. She does not just recall events. She shares how those moments made her feel. She reopens emotional experiences and allows you to step inside them. She is not telling you what happened. She is letting you feel what she felt. That is intimacy beyond attraction. And pay attention to consistency. Love is not proven in grand gestures that appear once. It reveals itself in patterns that repeat without performance. She shares regularly. She includes naturally. She opens without being pushed. This is not coincidence. This is emotional investment stabilizing. When a woman shares parts of her life that she could easily keep private, when she allows you to see uncertainty instead of strength, when she seeks connection without asking for reassurance directly, she is not explored interest. She is living inside attachment. And if you understand female psychology at its core, you recognize the truth most men overlook. A woman in love does not just share her happiness with you, she shares her reality. Because in her mind, the person who sees her truth is the person she is no longer afraid to keep. There is a point where her sharing stops being about expression and starts becoming integration. This is where most men either recognize love or unknowingly push it away. She begins to connect her decisions to your presence without announcing it. She considers how choices affect the space between you, not because she feels obligated, but because emotional closeness naturally reshapes priorities. When she shares why she made a decision, even small ones, she is not seeking permission. She is inviting you into her reasoning process. That invitation is intimacy. Watch how she shares her past differently with you than with others. It becomes more complete, more nuanced. She doesn't just tell you what happened. She tells you how she interpreted it, what she learned, and what still lingers. She allows you to understand the emotional blueprint that guides her behavior. This is not storytelling. This is exposure of identity. A woman who is not in love protects her independence by limiting access. A woman who is in love protects the connection by expanding access. She does not feel smaller by including you. She feels steadier. And here is something subtle but powerful. She begins to share her uncertainties about herself, not to be fixed, not to be reassured constantly, but simply to be seen accurately. When she lets you witness self-doubt, she is offering something rare, her unedited internal dialogue. Many men miss this moment because it doesn't look glamorous. It looks human. It looks ordinary. But psychologically, it is a threshold. Few people cross unless emotional safety is deeply established. She also starts sharing joy in a different way. It becomes less about impressing you and more about celebrating with you. She wants you present when something good happens, even if it is small. She sends you moments not because they are extraordinary, but because sharing them makes the experience complete for her. Completion is the language of attachment. Another sign appears in how she shares conflict. She does not withdraw permanently. She does not punish with distance. Instead, she expresses discomfort with the intention of restoring closeness. When a woman wants resolution more than victory, connection has become emotionally valuable. And pay attention to timing. She shares thoughts when they happen, not strategically later. Real-time sharing means you occupy mental space consistently. You are not an afterthought. You are a reference point. There is also a quiet shift in emotional transparency. She stops filtering reactions to appear composed. She lets you see when something affects her deeply. This is not loss of control. It is removal of emotional armor. A woman in love does not share everything loudly. She shares meaningfully. She shares consistently. She shares without calculating the outcome. And when you become the person she turns toward to process life, not just to escape it, you are no longer outside her emotional world. You are inside the structure of it. That is not attraction growing. That is love stabilizing. There is a moment when her sharing becomes protection, not of herself, but of the connection she feels with you. This is where love stops being a feeling and becomes a quiet commitment expressed through behavior. She begins to share boundaries clearly, not to create distance, but to preserve closeness. She tells you what hurts her, what matters to her, what she cannot ignore. A woman who is not invested avoids emotional friction. A woman who is in love chooses honesty over comfort because the relationship itself has value worth protecting. And notice how she shares responsibility. She does not place all emotional weight on you. She reflects on her own reactions. She explains where she might have misunderstood. She shows willingness to adjust. This is not submission. This is partnership forming beneath the surface. She also starts sharing the parts of her life that are not impressive, the routines that feel repetitive, the moments she doubts herself, the ordinary details she once kept private. When she invites you into her unremarkable reality, she is not seeking validation. She is sharing existence. That is the deepest form of inclusion. Watch how she responds when something meaningful happens to you. If she shares your victories with genuine pride, if your growth feels personal to her, emotional alignment has taken place. She does not observe your life from a distance. She experiences it as connected to her own emotional landscape. There is another quiet signal men often overlook. She shares silence when something weighs on her, but she does not disappear. She may need space to process, but she communicates presence even within distance. Emotional withdrawal without disconnection is a sign of trust. And when she shares concern about losing harmony between you, pay attention. Fear of disconnection appears only where attachment exists. She is not afraid of conflict. She is afraid of losing closeness. Love also reveals itself in how she shares her energy. She invests attention intentionally. She listens deeply. She remembers what matters to you. These are not habits of politeness. They are patterns of emotional priority. When she shares how she sees you, not flattering illusions, but accurate reflections of your strengths and struggles, she is not just observing you, she is emotionally attuned to you. That level of perception comes from sustained internal focus. And perhaps the clearest sign of all is this: she shares herself without needing certainty about the outcome. She opens even without guarantees. She stays emotionally present even when the future is unknown. That is risk embraced willingly. A woman who does not love you protects herself from emotional exposure. A woman who loves you accepts exposure as the cost of connection. So when she shares her thoughts, her fears, her daily reality, her reactions, her memories, her hopes, and her quiet truths with consistency, understand what you are witnessing. You are not being entertained. You are being trusted with a heart that has chosen to include you without conditions, and that choice is never casual. The final truth is the one most men overlook because it feels too simple to be powerful. When a woman is truly in love, she does not just share parts of her life, she shares her emotional direction. She begins moving toward you without needing to be pulled. You feel it in the consistency of her presence, not intensity that appears and disappears, but steadiness that remains. She does not create confusion to maintain interest. She does not create distance to test your value. She shows up emotionally with a quiet reliability that requires no performance. This is not effort to impress you. This is alignment. When she shares how she feels in the moment, even when those feelings are complex or difficult to explain, she is choosing transparency over protection. She is allowing you to witness her internal world as it unfolds, not after it has been edited into something easier to accept. And here is what that means psychologically. She no longer sees connection with you as something fragile that must be controlled. She sees it as something real that can be trusted. A woman who is unsure keeps emotional exits open. A woman who is in love closes those exits quietly by investing fully in presence. She shares not because she must, but because holding things back no longer feels natural to her. You will notice that she does not disappear when life becomes heavy. She may need space, she may need time, but she does not detach from the bond. She shares where she is emotionally even when she cannot offer clarity. That is not confusion. That is commitment to connection. She begins to treat your understanding of her as important, not your approval, not your validation, your understanding. She wants to be known accurately because being known by you feels safe. And when a woman wants to be known deeply, she has already allowed love to take root. There is a quiet transformation that happens inside her. She stops asking herself if you matter. She begins asking herself how to protect what exists between you. Her sharing becomes intentional, steady, and sincere. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, simply real. This is the moment most men misinterpret because they expect fireworks instead of depth. They expect confession instead of consistency. But love does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives as trust that never withdraws. So if she shares her inner world with you without resistance, if she includes you in her ordinary life without hesitation, if she opens emotionally without needing control, if she moves toward connection even when vulnerability is present, then understand this clearly. She is not deciding whether she loves you. She is living as someone who already does. And now I want to ask you something personal. When she shares her real self with you, do you respond with presence or distraction? Be honest with yourself and write your answer in the comments. Connection plus presence. If this message revealed something you needed to see, like the video, subscribe for more truths most men never hear, and share it with one person who needs to understand what real love actually looks like.